Okay, so we're going to do a deep dive today into crypto. Um, Specifically, Shiba Inu, you sent over some articles about its price predictions, that whole, can it get to that dollar mark? And then a few other cryptocurrencies that seem to be making some waves.
Yeah, it is. It's definitely a fascinating landscape. And, we can certainly dig into whether or not Shiba Inu is going to hit $1 by 2025 and kind of unpack what's driving that conversation, but also go beyond that and look at some really interesting contenders like Black Dag, Cardano, Toncoin, and Immutable.
Perfect, yeah. I think this will be really helpful for anyone listening who's either already really into crypto or maybe just kind of starting to explore it.
Totally.
Give them
Yeah,
some good insights.
absolutely. And I think a good place to start might be with that Nasdaq article, which kind of throws some cold water on the idea of Shiba Inu hitting $1.
Yeah, I was pretty blunt about it. I think they said it would take like 13,000 years.
Yeah, 13,000 years for enough of the tokens to be burned for that to
happen. Wow.
Yeah, and that's where I think, understanding market capitalization is really important. It's basically, if every Shiba Inu token were to be worth $1, then its market cap would be larger than like all the money in the world combined. So does that seem realistic?
Not really, no.
Yeah.
But what about all that talk about burning tokens? Doesn't that increase the value?
Not necessarily, no. Burning tokens just reduces the supply, which can make the existing tokens appear more valuable, but it doesn't actually create real value. It's kind of like cutting a pizza into smaller slices. You still have the same amount of pizza.
Okay, so maybe reaching $1 is a pipe dream for Shiba Inu, but the community seems really passionate about it.
Yeah.
What are they doing to try and boost its value?
Yeah, well, there are definitely efforts to create more utility for Shiba Inu. So moving beyond just kind of the meme status and developing some real world applications. There's even a project called Shibarium, which is a layer 2 solution that's designed to improve transaction speeds and lower costs.
Right. And, the TechPoint articles highlighted this general positive sentiment that seems to be surrounding crypto right now. They talked about things like Bitcoin ETFs being approved and the crackdown on some of the shadier parts of the market.
Absolutely. Those are positive signs, for the market as a whole. But, here's the thing. While Bitcoin is often seen as a store of value, kind of like digital gold, many of these smaller tokens, including Shiba Inu, they don't have the same strong fundamentals.
So it's kind of like buyer beware in a way.
In a way, yeah. Yeah. It's really important to look beyond the hype and really understand what a particular cryptocurrency offers. Say is a good example of this. You have coin codex and long forecasts predicting, significant price increases, but then you have these other contrasting viewpoints like we were talking about with the, 13,000 years for Shiba Inu to burn to reach $1.
Well, and speaking of contrasting viewpoints, what about that fear and greed index mentioned in the Nasdaq article? That sounded kind of intriguing.
It is, yeah. It's basically a gauge of market sentiment. It tells you whether investors are feeling super optimistic, greedy, or super pessimistic, fearful. And right now it's showing extreme greed, which could mean that the market is getting a little too hot.
So that could be a signal to, proceed with caution, maybe.
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely something to keep in mind. Now, while Shiba Inu's future is very much uncertain, there are these other areas of crypto that are just exploding with innovation. So, like we talked about, Black Dag, Cardano, Toncoin, and Immutable.
Yeah, those really pique my interest from those TechPoint articles.
Yeah.
I mean, those seem to be focused on solving real problems and not just kind of like riding a meme wave.
Exactly. Yeah, and that's what makes them really exciting. So, for instance, Black Dag. It's the first of its kind, this thing called a DAG chain, which allows for super fast transactions without compromising security. And their pre-sale just brought in a whopping $159 million.
Yeah, nearly 4,200% return on investment. I mean, that got people's attention.
For sure. Now, Cardano has been around for a while, but they're really gaining momentum, and they're really focused on driving positive global change, They're using their technology, blockchain technology, for things like tracking agricultural products or verifying educational credentials, really trying to, bring blockchain into everyday life.
And then there's Toncoin, which is getting integrated with Telegram. I mean, talk about a massive potential user base.
Yeah, it's a brilliant move, right? Because they're bridging the gap between, Web3, this next generation of the internet, and traditional social media platforms, it's really a fusion that could really reshape the digital landscape as we know it. Plus, it's seen its price surge, hitting a 3-month high of $7.
Okay, so we got speed and innovation with BlockDAG, real-world applications with Cardano, massive reach with Toncoin. What's the story with Immutable?
Yeah, so Immutable is tackling a major pain point in the NFT world, which is, the high fees that are often associated with Ethereum. So they're using something called a layer 2 solution, which is essentially a faster lane for transactions to make NFTs more accessible. And it seems to be working. Their daily transactions have shot up over 400%.
Wow. So they're kind of removing those roadblocks and making it easier for more people to get into the NFT space.
Exactly, yeah. And it really highlights the importance of looking beyond just price. It's that tokens utility, it's the real world applications and the technology that's really driving it.
Okay. So we've got this whole buffet of different crypto contenders, each with their own strengths and potential. But how do we make sense of it all?
Yeah.
What should we be considering as we navigate this world?
That's where it gets interesting, right? Because it's not just about, chasing quick profits or, riding the latest trend. It's about really understanding the bigger picture. It's like, what problems does this cryptocurrency solve? What are the real world applications? Does it have a strong development team and community behind it? These are the questions that will lead you to, I think, the most promising investments.
That makes a lot of sense. It's about looking past the hype and digging deeper into the substance of it.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's what we're here to do, right? Help you navigate this whole exciting, ever-changing world of crypto.
It's interesting, when we talk about BlockDAG, Cardano, Toncoin, Immutable, it feels like we're talking about entirely different worlds than that whole Shiba Inu thing.
Oh, yeah, totally. Yeah. It's like they're playing completely different games. And speaking of different games, you mentioned DeFi earlier, decentralized finance. That sounds like another one of those game changer areas in crypto. DeFi is really fascinating. It's really about kind of rethinking how finance works, from the ground up. Basically, saying, what if we could create a financial system without banks, without brokers, without governments controlling everything?
Right. Okay. So no more big banks calling the shots.
Yeah.
But wouldn't that also mean no more FDIC insurance, no more regulations to protect people? There's got to be some trade-offs, right?
Yeah, that's the key question with DeFi. It's how do you balance this, this incredible innovation with, security and stability? And yeah, you're right. Cutting out the middlemen, you remove some of those safety nets, but you also remove a lot of the, gatekeeping and the control that traditional finance has.
I see what you mean. So how does DeFi actually work? Is it like a giant online marketplace where people are just lending and borrowing money directly to and from each other?
That's one aspect of it. Yeah, for sure. So, imagine getting a loan without going through a bank or earning interest on your crypto without relying on a centralized exchange. DeFi platforms make that possible, often with better terms and lower fees than you would find in the traditional world.
Okay, that does sound kind of appealing, especially with how frustrating banks can be sometimes. But how do you even know who to trust in this DeFi world? Isn't it kind of risky?
There are definitely risks, especially since it's still, early days for DeFi. It's kind of like, the early internet, full of potential, but also full of scams and, pitfalls. So that's why, research is so crucial. You really have to understand the protocols that you're interacting with and only invest what you can afford to lose.
So maybe not putting your life savings in there just yet.
Yeah. Probably wise. But the exciting part is that DeFi is built on this technology called blockchain, which is inherently designed to be transparent and secure.
Okay, so I've heard of blockchain, but I'll be honest, it still sounds kind of mysterious.
Think of it like, a giant public record of transactions, kind of like a, constantly updated receipt book that everyone can see. Except instead of being kept in one place, it's distributed across a whole network of computers, which makes it virtually impossible to hack or tamper with.
So it's like a super secure, decentralized database.
Exactly, yeah. And that's what makes DeFi possible. So these decentralized financial applications, they're built on top of blockchains, mainly Ethereum, which is known for its ability to handle something called smart contracts.
Smart contracts. Okay, those sound pretty futuristic. What are those exactly?
Imagine having a digital agreement that automatically executes itself when certain conditions are met. So that's a smart contract. It's basically like a self-executing program, written in code. So for example, you could have, a loan agreement where the funds are released automatically once the borrower meets, the agreed upon terms.
Whoa. So it's like having a digital lawyer like built into the system. That takes out a lot of the guesswork and the potential for like disputes and things.
Yeah, that's the beauty of it. And since all of this is happening on a public blockchain, there's transparency. Everyone can see what's going on, which helps build trust and accountability.
That's a far cry from like the traditional financial world, which can feel very like opaque and like secretive. So with all this potential, is DeFi going to completely replace traditional finance?
It's definitely shaking things up, yeah. It's one of the fastest growing areas in crypto, and even big financial institutions are starting to, pay attention. But, whether it completely replaces traditional finance is still up for debate.
So if somebody's interested in like getting involved in DeFi, what's a good first step? Should they, be rushing out to buy DeFi tokens?
I would say the most important step is really just to learn and understand this space before jumping in. The DeFi world is still evolving, and it's important to approach it with a balanced perspective, excitement for the potential, but also awareness of the risks.
So like a healthy dose of skepticism along with that sense of adventure.
Exactly, yeah. Spend time researching different projects, understanding the technology behind them, looking at the track record of the teams involved.
So not just FOMOing into the latest like trendy token.
Right. Remember, it's your money, and you need to be comfortable with the risks. A good place to start is by exploring, established platforms and protocols with a strong reputation.
Okay. All right. So we've talked about the what and the why of DeFi, but what about the how? How do you actually evaluate these DeFi projects? Like, what are some red flags to look out for?
Yeah, well, security is always paramount, right? So look for projects that have undergone, rigorous security audits from reputable firms, and do some digging on the development team. What's their experience? Are they transparent? Are they active in the community? Those are really good indicators of a trustworthy project.
So it's not just about the tech itself, but the people behind it.
Absolutely, yeah. Krypton is full of, passionate, brilliant people, but there are also, those who are just looking to make a quick buck. So always do your due diligence.
I'm definitely picking up on like a theme here. Research, research, research. But even with the risks, it's hard not to be excited about the potential of DeFi. It feels like you could really like change the game for so many people.
Yeah, it's a very empowering concept, you know? Giving individuals more control over their finances and creating a more accessible, financial system. And it's not just limited to finance. DeFi is starting to make waves in other areas like gaming and art, even social media.
Wow. That's incredible. It feels like we're just scratching the surface of what's possible with this technology.
Absolutely. And that's what makes this space so exciting. Now, speaking of the bigger picture, let's kind of shift gears for a moment and revisit, those crypto market trends that we touched on earlier. Remember that Nasdaq article? They weren't too optimistic about Shiba Inu hitting $1. But what about, the broader crypto market? What's your take on where things are headed?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, on the one hand, we've got Shiba Inu struggling to like gain real traction.
Yeah.
But then you have all this innovation happening with DeFi, layer 2 solutions, these alternative coins like BlockDAG and Cardano. It feels like there's this tension, right, between the hype and like the actual substance.
There is. And navigating that tension is key, to success in the crypto world. While it's impossible to predict the future with certainty, there are some trends that point to, continued growth and adoption of cryptocurrencies. We're seeing more individuals, more institutions dipping their toes in the water. Even governments and regulators are starting to take notice.
So it's becoming less of a fringe movement and more of a mainstream phenomenon.
Exactly, yeah. And with the approval of Bitcoin ETFs and, the crackdown on some of the shadier practices in the industry, we're seeing the market, mature and gain more legitimacy.
So in a way, more regulation might actually be a good thing for the long-term health of the crypto market.
I think so, yeah. Regulation can provide clarity, stability, investor protection, which are all essential, for attracting more institutional investors and fostering mainstream adoption. It's about striking that balance between innovation and responsibility.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's like anything new, It takes time for like the rules of the game to get established. But with all this happening, the growing adoption, the increasing regulation, all this innovation can still feel pretty overwhelming, I think, for like the average person who's just starting to explore crypto.
Oh, I completely understand that. Yeah. My advice would be to approach crypto with a mindset of continuous learning. Don't feel pressured to invest in things you don't understand or chase the latest hype. Start by educating yourself. Explore different resources. Find communities where you can ask questions and connect with others who are kind of on the same journey.
It's like anything else, right? The more you learn, the more comfortable you become. And, luckily, the crypto community seems like incredibly open and welcoming to newcomers.
It is, yeah. It's one of the things I love about this space. People are genuinely passionate about sharing their knowledge and helping others learn.
So where do we go from here? I mean, we've covered a lot of ground, right? From the hype surrounding Shiba Inu to the potential of DeFi to these broader trends shaping the crypto market. What's like the one big idea you want our listeners to walk away with?
I think the big idea is that, the crypto world is a complex, ever-evolving landscape. There are opportunities for those who are willing to learn and explore, but there are also risks to be aware of. And the key is to approach it with a balance of, curiosity and caution. Embrace the possibilities, but don't be afraid to ask questions, do your research, and think critically about the information you encounter.
Curiosity and caution. I love that. It's the perfect motto for anyone venturing into this world. And on that note, I think we've given our listeners a lot to digest. So we've explored the highs and lows of Shiba Inu and dove deep into DeFi and even talked about all those forces that are shaping the crypto market.
It's been quite a journey.
Yeah.
And, through it all, I think we've really seen that crypto is, much more than just Bitcoin or, those meme coins.
Right. It's this whole ecosystem of ideas and technologies and communities that are just pushing the boundaries of what's possible.
Yeah. And as with any new frontier, there's a lot of excitement, there's a lot of speculation and, a fair bit of risk.
Yeah, sure.
But we've also seen that there's real substance behind the hype.
Absolutely.
Projects like Blockdeck, Cardano, Toncoin, Immutable, they're tackling those real world problems and, they're building solutions and attracting serious investments.
Exactly. And that's why I think it's so important to approach crypto with, both enthusiasm, but also a critical eye, right? Don't just chase the latest trends or get swept up in the hype.
Totally.
Do your research, understand the fundamentals.
Yeah.
And remember, if something sounds too good to be true,
it probably is.
It probably is.
You got it.
Yeah.
It's your money, it's your investment, and ultimately, it's your responsibility to make those informed decisions.
Now, I want to circle back to something we briefly mentioned earlier, that idea of crypto going mainstream.
Yeah.
We talked about Bitcoin ETFs, increasing regulation, and even those traditional institutions getting involved. What does this shift towards mainstream acceptance, I guess, mean for the average person?
It's a signal, right, that crypto is becoming more accessible, more understandable, and, maybe even more normal.
Right.
Remember when the internet was this niche thing for techies?
Yeah.
And now it's woven into every aspect of our lives.
Totally.
Right. And it feels like crypto is on a similar trajectory.
It does.
We're already seeing it being integrated into payment systems, investment portfolios, even everyday apps.
Yeah.
So this mainstream adoption, is likely to continue, which is going to make crypto, an even more familiar part of our financial landscape.
So for somebody who's maybe a little intimidated by all this, what's a good way for them to dip their toes in the water?
I always recommend starting with education. There are tons of great resources available online, articles, videos, podcasts, even online courses that can help you understand, the basics of blockchain, cryptocurrencies, and how it all works.
Yeah.
And don't be afraid to, join online communities or find, local meetups. The crypto community is generally very welcoming and supportive, especially, towards newcomers.
And most importantly, remember that this is a journey, not a race. Right. Yeah. Take your time.
For sure.
Learn at your own pace and never invest more than you can afford to lose.
Wise words, yeah.
This space is constantly evolving.
Absolutely.
So staying curious, staying informed, and being adaptable is key.
Couldn't agree more.
Well, this deep dive has definitely opened my eyes to, just the incredible breadth and depth of the crypto world. And it's clear that we've only just scratched the surface.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure exploring it with you.
Likewise.
And for our listeners, I hope this has been a, valuable and thought-provoking experience.
If there's one thing we want you to take away from this, it's that, the future of finance, technology, and perhaps even society itself is being shaped by these innovations happening in the crypto space.
Yeah.
Don't be afraid to be a part of it.
Stay curious, stay informed, and, who knows, maybe you'll be the one driving the next wave of crypto innovation.
That's a great note to end on.
Yeah.
To all our listeners out there, thank you for joining us on this deep dive.
Thanks, everyone.
Until next time, keep exploring.